We're out here this evening taking a wee walk through some of the wheat, and I just want to show you the amount of wildlife in the fields. A lot of people give farmers hard press that they spray insecticides and this, that and the other and they kill all the wildlife. Yes, there's still some farmers do it and do it too much, and I'm quite happy to admit that, but there's a lot of farmers who don't. We haven't used insecticides for 7 years in any of our arable crops, and we're now in our 4th year with none on our potato crops. And we are seeing a difference, but we have to remember that there's a lot of people out there doing good work and trying their best. If we can, I'm just going to try and show you here what the head of wheat looks like, and what it is we're at the moment. It's a wee bit difficult with one hand, but we'll give it a go. I'm really doing the threshing mechanism to separate out the grains. You can see the grains of wheat there coming out. The nice big clean plump grains, which are still quite soft. They're what we call like a milky ripe. If we get the camera to focus. That effectively is your flour. And we're wanting that to ripen in rock hard as much as possible. Otherwise we'll have to dry it down to a moisture of below 15%. Months fighting with the weather, trying to go food to feed the population, and we fought all the way through for 10 months, and we get 3 days of rain just when we're ready to harvest. Let's hope we get a dry week to salvage what's left of these oats. Otherwise it's going to be very costly. We have about 25,000 pounds worth of oats ready for harvest, and 2/3 of them are flat to the ground, and if we don't get dry weather and get them harvested and lifted, those oats will just rot in the ground or start to grow and be no good for anything. It's very disheartening. First few months it was so wet trying to get stuff to grow. Then it was too dry in the spring whenever we needed rain to help the crops grow. And now we've done 1 day of harvest and the rain has started. And we must have had 3 inches of rain in the last 3 days. It's just so disheartening. We were very lucky, however, to get our winter barley, which is for animal feed, all harvested and straw baled, and it's safe now in the shed. We just have to run it through the dryer to take out the last wee bit of moisture and any dust and chaff and stuff, clean it up a wee bit, and we'll get that away to the grain mill as soon as possible, which is great to get that salvaged. We cut it on Tuesday just before the rain, but unfortunately the rest of the crops, the wheat and the oats, are just about ready for harvest, and now the rain's doing its best to destroy them. That's the last of the wheat for now. Went into the dryer. We're hopefully waiting on the good weather next week to allow us to get some more cut. So we're all cut up and up to date, and the store's starting to fill up rightly now with wheat. But we are in a bit of a panic. We could really do with getting the oats off and see if now next week in this good weather or it'll be too late. As you can see, it's been another wet day. And it's dusty, itchy sort of a job, this one. So we're glad to get in tonight and get it washed down. But it's good to be up to date at the same time with the drying. As you can see in the background, it's rather hazy and foggy this morning. It might as well have rained. So harvest is going to be delayed today. We hopefully will get some harvest done in the afternoon. But until then, we will crack on with just scratching the surface of these fields that have been harvested and baled and cleared, so that we can germinate any weeds and get them out of the system before planting our following crop for next year. Because we don't want seeds, or we don't want those seeds still ungerminated when we plant the following crop, because then they will emerge with that and increase our reliance on herbicides and chemicals to get rid of those weeds. From a carbon footprint point of view, some people would say this is releasing carbon into the atmosphere, which technically it is to a certain extent, but people also are in a society where they want you to use less chemicals. So if we had less chemicals, i.e. glyphosate or Roundup, to get rid of those weeds at a later date, this is a perfect way of getting them out of the system. It also helps us break down the stubble and the straw trash and help it start to break down into the soil, mineralise nitrogen, and then when we plant the following crop, we will have a good seed bed ready to help the following crop grow. So we'll just crack on here and get this, and hopefully we'll get some harvest done this afternoon. These are all important jobs that we can be getting on with. It's ideal conditions. We had the rain last week, so the soil is moist. We'll give this a wee crack over. It's warm. The weeds will all germinate pretty quick. and then whenever we go to plant our following crop, the cultivation method will rip out those weed seeds and take them out of the system and reduce the pressure on the following crop. The good weather has come out. Beautiful evening. If a wee bit calm, we can do a wee bit more wind to help dry, and especially the lie and stuff. And we're cutting wheat here at the moment, which you can maybe see going into the bin behind me. This is X-Taze, which is one of our good disease-resistant varieties. We're munching through it here now. We're having to go pretty steady for it's a very heavy crop. Currently running at the minute over 4 tons to the acre there over the height. And when we get down into the thicker stuff, it will probably get a bit higher. You can see the dust and chaff blowing in the mirror there behind us. It's great to get back up there. Look, there's the yield right up. Absolutely fantastic crop of stuff. Given the fact that this is the very field that we stood and dug a hole in back in April on one of our review meetings, saying about how dry it was. We were just lucky that the rain came at the right time, helped by the fact that there's good organic matter and good amount of organic manure applied before this crop was sowed, and it helped keep it steady. That's what you call a near miss. Thought I could smell a wee bit of like a belt burner. Turns out this bear was red hot. I've got a drop of water on it there, but that's that. That's how easy you can get a fire. You can get that fixed now for tomorrow. It's a lot duller today. The sun has never really come out. It's now just gone 1 o'clock and we're started again today, but we're in our last field of wheat for harvest 21. So let's hope it goes quite well. Yeah, this is our last field. This is Graham winter wheat. It's a feed wheat, and it's thrashing quite well. It did over 4 tons to the acre. I'm glad to be getting through into our last field. We didn't get very much done yesterday now with that breakdown on the idler pulley giving us a wee bit of bother, but that's just part and parcel of harvest. So if I give you a wee roundup of just what's required to drive the combine, and I'll maybe see John Deere have an animation I'll put on to show you how the threshing mechanism works. But basically the header here feeds the wheat in, and it goes through the centre of the combine, and the threshing mechanism takes the grain all out of the head, sieves it through and puts it into the grain tank behind us here, and then the straw or the stems of the plant goes out the rear of the combine, and we collect that then and bale it up for the livestock. Basically the idea of the reel is to just gently make sure the grain falls into the cutting table rather than away from it, and I can adjust this up and down and in and out with my control pad, and then the one beside that controls the height of the cutting table and also the tilt angle, so I can tilt it with the contours of the field. Although if I get it set to the predetermined height, in general it will automatically follow the contours of the field at the same height. So you'll see whenever we get to the end of the field then how the automatic buttons work. Big yellow button on the top, that's your emergency stop. If we pick up something in the header table or it jams, the straw wraps around it, we can give that a tap and that gets it stopped. The button here on the right, that puts our unloading auger in and out. So when we go to dump the grain into the trailer, we push that and the auger will come out right alongside and we can empty it into the trailer. And then the yellow button turns that on. So we're just coming to the end here. It's a pointy bit, some lying bits, and that's why we put our reel down to catch those. Some of it's just very low to the ground and too risky. So if I hit button 1, that will automatically bring my cutting table up. Swing round. We've left the run round the headland to the last because we're starting, this is the first field of the day, and with all the fog and mist and no sun, it is slow to dry that wee bit, so we want to give it as long as possible. It's just a wee bit slower when we're doing it one-handed here, but we'll tilt the table over to the side so that we can come down in without lifting the row of straw. We're going to get a bit of it anyway. And then if I hit button 2, that will automatically level my cutting table to the desired height. And as the contours of the ground changes, that cutting table or that header will rise and lower to match that. This is also known as a hillsider combine. So as you can see, trying to hold the phone level, the header is much lower on the left than it is on the right, and that's because the combine is rectifying itself and trying to stay level as much as possible. There obviously is a limitation, but you shouldn't really be beyond that. You can see as we come down into this bit here, it's a bit patchy under the tree, And this is where the water has lay over the winter. Because we had such a bad winter and it's a low-lying spot and a damp spot with the trees, the water has laid there all winter and caused damage to this bit of the field. Just going to watch these couple of trees here to make sure we don't damage our machine. Last field of harvest 2021. The variety of this barley is Diablo, which is a malting variety, which means it can be used to make whiskey or beer. So you can grow grain in this country that will be ideal for making local Irish whiskey or Irish beer. And it's an absolutely beautiful pickle of grain when you see it get into the tank. So well pleased with it from that point of view. We have initially just grown this for feed as it's a good variety, but I'd like to get it tested to see if it would meet malting spec and we could get a premium for it, or else we could simply use that to base our varieties that are growing for next year. But an interesting variety. It's the first time we've grown Diablo. I'm well pleased, a nice sample of grain. Now the only thing is there's not a lot of straw. It's quite a row of straw, it doesn't look too bad, but it's very short. You can see from the rows of straw, like it's like nearly 2 small rows side by side. That's because we're using a rotary combine. Traditionally, a lot of combines would have what they would call straw walkers, which walk the grain literally out of the back of the machine. Whereas there's 2 rotors, and the rotors spin and pull the grain out through that way. And that's why when it lands at each side, you kind of have 2 rows of straw. Actually makes for a great bale of straw when you go to round bale it, because normally you have an issue with too much straw in the center of the bale. It's hard to make a nice square seems strange, but a square round bale. Whereas if you have just the right amount of the outsides, you can make a much leveler bale. And the rotary combine is doing well for that. And that's it, just like that. Harvest 21 is complete.